Shalom. Call Haloyim Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Macha Kodash and Shani Kabada Kadawala Rukwab Zakwanyam Nawa Wa Shalayakim Nawa. And that is double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone. And Shalom Wabarakim Labakayim Shalayasharala. And that is peace and blessings to the elect of Israel, and the peace and blessings to the confusion of faces, and also may a double portion of the Holy Spirit be put upon the brothers that are out there on the highways and byways, offering their bodies as a living sacrifice out there on the front lines. So, in the past 2 to 3 days, a lot of information has been coming out. And if you've been viewing this information, these articles, these news videos, with a spiritual eye, then you know that it all has to do with biblical prophecy. So with that being said, we're going to start off here. 2nd Ezra chapter 16, verse 14. Behold, the plagues are sent, and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled, and shall not be put out, till it consume the foundation of the earth. Like as an arrow, which is shot of an mighty archer, returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return again. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Everything that we're going to touch on, and that's literally all we're going to do, is just touch on everything that's been happening, because many brothers have already made videos about it. And it's just so much information, and I sort of kind of want to get through all of it. So I'm just going to briefly read through a few articles that literally just came out a few hours ago. But with that being said, no matter what it is, everything that we're going to touch on is just the beginning of what's going to come in America. No matter, we're going to touch on the global markets, the stock market, the China-U.S. trade tariffs, or trade wars, I should say. All of that, and even the shootings that just happened. All of that is just the beginning of sorrows, the beginning of great mournings, the beginning of famine and death. The scriptures say this is just the beginning of wars. So with that being said, let's get into it, because I don't want to make this video too long. We have a few articles. The first one is this from CNBC, just came out 4 hours ago. It says China reportedly halts U.S. agriculture imports in retaliation for Trump tariffs increase. Let me see if this is the first one. It is. So here we go. It says China has halted imports of U.S. agriculture products, citing people familiar with the situation. This hits at a sensitive issue for President Donald Trump. The president claimed that he had secured large quantities of agriculture purchases when he met with President Xi Jinping at the G20 summit in June. He later accused China of not following through with those purchases, leading him to announce on Thursday 10% tariffs on the remaining $300 billion in Chinese imports. Trump has ordered a $16 billion aid package to U.S. farmers, because, of course, that's going to hurt farmers over here in the U.S. It says editor-in-chief of the Global Times, Hu Xinjiang, I guess, followed by many on Wall Street for Trade War Insight, said in a tweet, China has suspended tariff exemption for U.S. agriculture products, and Chinese companies have stopped ordering from the U.S. exporters. China is waiting to see how trade negotiations proceed before committing to any purchases, Bloomberg News said. China claimed the accusations that it didn't resume buying agriculture products are untrue, Dow Jones reported Monday. Now, this says, in another possible retaliation, China allowed its currency, the yuan, to breach the 7 level versus the U.S. dollar, making its products cheaper. Because basically, by the U.S. putting tariffs on China, What the Chinese have done is now devalue their currency, which makes buying from China more attractive. So what they're doing is they're countering the tariffs that the U.S. or Donald Trump, if you will, put on China. So they're basically saying, look, we're willing to go as far as devaluing our currency in this trade war. If you're going to put all these tariffs upon us and you're going to accuse us of something that we didn't do, well, guess what? We're not afraid of you. You may have been that big bad wolf, but guess what? We in the gym too. We're going to devalue our own currency. And now that's going to make them more attractive for other nations. Basically saying that your tariffs aren't going to affect us. And then on top of that, they stopped buying agricultural products from the U.S. And I read in a different article that China started buying, I think it was soybeans from South America. And that's the end on that article. So that's a pretty short article, but the scriptures talk about how there's going to be what? Matthew 24 verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Why is that? Because right now is just the beginning of wars, the beginnings of evil, the beginning of plagues and pestilence and famine. And this trade war will lead, along with many other things, but it will lead into famine in the U.S. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines. There shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places. All these are just what? Just like Ezra said, all these are the beginning of sorrows. So now I do want to read this next article. So that was a little bit concerning the trade war, but now that trade war has affected the stock market today and really the global markets. It says U.S. stocks plummet as China announces trade war retaliation involving currency value and farm purchases. We're only going to read a little bit in this article because it sort of kind of says the same thing. U.S. stocks plunged on Monday as the trade war between the world's two largest economies escalated, with China retaliating against the latest tariff threat by U.S. President Donald Trump. And we just read what those retaliations were. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 767 points, its worst day of the year. And I believe that today makes the 6th straight day that the Dow Jones, or I think just the market, that the Dow Jones has been bearish, that the Dow Jones has been down. And the reason why this is significant, because 767 points isn't a market crash. But if anything, if the market keeps going in this downwards bearish trend or momentum, if you will, then that can lead into a correction, which can later lead into a market crash. And that's what we're looking forward to, because America has to be destroyed in order for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai to return and for his kingdom to be established here on earth. So America has to go down. This is biblical prophecy, and therefore we're looking forward to it. That's why we report on it. So what you should be doing right now is staying prayed up. Staying prayed up. It says, and as a matter of fact, I read in an article by CNN, I think it was, or maybe yahoo.com, that in total, the stock market went down a total of, or the Dow went down a total of 960 points, but it closed down 767. It says China's retaliatory strategy to the U.S. appears to be death by 1,000 cuts. China has methodically delivered a wave of negative news that is hitting President Trump where it hurts. The U.S. stock market, Edward Moya at foreign exchange broker Owanda Corp wrote on Monday. It says tech stocks were among the hardest hit as the sector stands to suffer more than others if the trade war continues to escalate. Apple fell more than 5%, which is a lot for Apple, and Intel 3.5%. Apple is the poster child of the trade war, said Dan Ives, a tech analyst. This is a clear gut punch, as Apple has bet the farm on China, both from a demand and supply perspective. And we all know how huge of a corporation that Apple is. But this dude is saying that what China just did was a gut punch to America. So we're in the boxing ring right now. We're in the 12th round, believe it or not. We're at the end of this current era, this current rulership eon of these Edomites ruling. And China just hit the U.S. in the gut, a clear body shot right to the rib cage. Let me see if there's anything else. Investors are running backwards. Blah, blah, blah. It says the yuan was devalued, and we do know that. Let me see. A weaker currency can help China remain competitive in exports. That's what I said earlier. Shortly after midday in New York. Okay, we know that. It stopped purchases. Oh, yeah. In a note to investors, Chris Kruger of the investment banking firm Cowen called the currency move a massive Chinese retaliation. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's an 11, he said. Overnight, the Chinese government retaliated against new U.S. tariffs, and it's designed to get the president's attention. Okay? So that's what's going on in the global markets. And it's going to have a huge effect eventually over here in the U.S. in terms of farming and agriculture, which will lead to a famine in the U.S. Now let's go over here. Let's jump over here to, we already know about this. I'm just going to touch on the key points. It says, this is from CNN Live Updates. At least 31 killed in U.S. Weekend mass shootings. And again, as we already read, this is just the beginning of sorrows. The scriptures say the beginning of death. This is nothing. So prepare your mind to see worse. Prepare your mind to see more death in the United States. And it may not be the most beautiful message. I know it's not. But at the end of the day, we have to be straightforward. We can't lie. We can't sugarcoat the scriptures. We can't just... Matter of fact, that just made me think of another scripture. Let me hold off on that article. I'm going to get Isaiah chapter 30. I think is what I'm looking for. Right, verse 9. It says that this is a rebellious people, lying children, children that will not hear the law of the Lord, which say to the seers, another word for the seers are the prophets, which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits. And we can't do that no matter how the people look at us, no matter what they say, no matter how they come against us with their words. If they try to condemn us and talk bad about us, we have to be straightforward and let you know that everything that's going on is just the beginnings of great sorrow and death and famine and plagues and earthquakes and wars. Many more of all those things are to come in America. And I keep saying America because that's the main place, main land of prophecy, but really on a global scale. Let's look up this word really quickly, smooth. Because the people want us to prophesy smooth things, and we can't do that. We have to be straightforward. We have to tell the truth. The word in Hebrew for smooth is chalaqua. Yep. And it says portion, parcel of the ground, smooth part, smoothness, flattery. Flattery. And we can't do that. We can't flatter or baby these people, baby anybody. The scriptures say, cry aloud and spare not. Show thy people their transgressions, in the house of Jacob their sins. And the scriptures also say, write the vision and make it plain upon tables. And that's what we have to do. Make it plain, meaning straightforward. So now let's go back to that article. Like I said, all we're going to read is the headline. At least 31 killed in U.S. weekend mass shooting. and the main subtopics right here, I guess. What we now know: 2 shootings. At least 31 people were killed over the weekend in mass shootings in Texas and Ohio. El Paso, 22 people were killed in El Paso after a mass shooting on Saturday. Dayton, another 9 people were killed in a shooting in the Oregon district of Dayton, Ohio. So these were the 2 mass shootings that are being reported on. And guess what? Meanwhile, over there in Chicago, which isn't getting which isn't getting much press. I'm assuming it's just another regular day over there in Chicago. At least 46 people were shot in Chicago over the weekend, including 7 who were killed. Okay, only 7 were killed, but 46 people were shot in Chicago. It says, as the nation grapples with mass shooting tragedies in El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio, dozens of people were shot in Chicago over the weekend. 2 mass shootings occurred in less than 3 hours on Sunday. In all, 7 people were killed and at least 46 others were wounded in shootings since Friday evening. And you can read more about that article. Just type in shooting in Chicago. That's all you have to do. But with that being said, I just wanted to bring out the news that was going on, or that's been happening over the past few days. And oh yeah, the spirit wasn't really on me to bring this out, but Trump is looking to sign in the red flag law. Red flag law, which basically allows for people to petition against certain others that are deemed to be dangerous of having a gun. So if someone has a gun and a community comes together, a policeman or community comes together and they say this person is dangerous and they should not have a gun, then they're allowed to petition the courts to take away that gun against that individual or specific individual. So the gun rights are being attacked right now, which is going to lead into basically guns being taken away on on a national scale here in America, which will make it a lot easier to impose martial law in America. And martial law is biblical as well. Just read the book of 2 Ezra chapter 15. You can start at verse 14 through 19. But with that being said, I do pray and hope that this was edifying. All of these are just the beginning of what's to come. So stay prayed up. As I said before, I pray that this video was edifying to the Lord's elect. I want to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem Rachakudash. A double honor to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. Shalom.